In today's video, we're exploring the dark and twisted rise of Gendor Skraivok, the painted count of the Night Lords. A journey that saw him go from the violent streets of Nostramo to his ascension as a Daemon Prince. But how did Skraivok secure his place as the feared painted count? And what price did he pay to become an avatar of the dark gods? Gendor Skraivok was born to the noble house of Skraivok on the bleak and murderous world of Nostramo, home to the infamous Night Lord's Legion. Skraivok's early life was one of cruelty and excess. As a serial killer, he hunted the poor for sport, but even that wasn't enough. Eventually, he turned on his fellow nobles, his appetite for violence never satisfied. This hunger for dominance and cruelty made him a natural fit for the Night Lords. Skraivok's rise within the Night Lords was swift. He became the clawmaster of the 45th Company, known for his use of war paint and brutal tactics, earning him the name the Painted Count. But his ambitions didn't stop at being a mere captain. During the Great Crusade, Skraivok's cunning and thirst for power led him to covertly undermine his Primarch, Conrad Kurz, in ways that would sow seeds of discontent within the Legion and threaten Kurz's authority. Initially, Kurz intended for the best and brightest of Nostramo to join the Night Lords, favoring warriors like Sevatar, who embodied the ideals of justice and brutal efficiency. However, Skraivok's manipulative nature contributed to a darker twist in the Legion's recruitment process. Kurz's noble intentions were sabotaged by Nostramo's ruling families, who sent prisoners, murderers, and criminals as recruits. Skraivok, seizing this opportunity, fully embraced the corruption. He was instrumental in turning the Legion's ranks into a force filled with the worst elements of society, killers and thugs, who were not bound by any noble ideals, but by their fear of him. Commanding the warship Daemon Prince, Skraivok took this process even further, personally overseeing the induction of the most violent and unstable recruits. He molded these prisoners and outcasts into a force loyal only to him, solidifying his power base and ensuring that his company would serve his ambitions rather than Kurz's vision for the Legion. During the Horus Heresy, Skraivok's lust for power led him to seek greater strength, and he found it in a dark bargain. He acquired a demon-possessed sword during the early days of the heresy, and from that moment, his fate was sealed. The sword, though it granted him immense power, was not merely a tool. It had a will of its own. Skraivok quickly realized that while the blade enhanced his strength in battle, it sought to control him. He tried to free himself from the blade several times. He incinerated it, ejected it into space, and even attempted to abandon it after battles. But no matter what he did, the sword always returned to him. It was a constant reminder that Skraivok's rise to power came at a heavy price. Over time, Skraivok accepted the blade's dark gifts, knowing that his ambitions could only be realized through the weapon's malevolent influence. As the Night Lord's reputation for terror grew across the galaxy, their homeworld of Nostramo began to unravel in Kurz's absence. Without their Primarch's brutal rule to enforce order, the planet quickly fell back into its old ways. Crime and corruption spread like wildfire. Skraivok, ever the opportunist, was among the first to recognize the renewed chaos. But instead of taking action to restore order or inform his Primarch, he saw an opportunity. Rather than intervening or warning Kurz, Skraivok chose to withhold this critical information, allowing the planet to spiral further into anarchy. Skraivok's silence would prove devastating. When Kurz eventually returned to his homeworld, he was horrified by its collapse into corruption. In a fit of despair and rage, the Night Haunter obliterated Nostramo by shattering its core. By that time, Skraivok had already cemented his power within the Legion, quietly manipulating events to ensure his rise. This act of manipulation, allowing Nostramo to fall, was one of the many steps Skraivok took to secure his place within the fractured Night Lords. Skraivok's manipulative rise continued through the Thrammas Crusade, during which Kurz found himself locked in a cat-and-mouse game with Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels. In a series of brutal skirmishes, Kurz was eventually separated from his legion, boarding the Invincible Reason, the Dark Angels' flagship, where he remained in hiding for weeks, confounding every attempt to capture him. Meanwhile, Skraivok used this opportunity to solidify his power base. The Night Lords, now fractured and leaderless, became a fertile ground for his ambitions. While Kurz was wreaking havoc aboard the Dark Angel's ship and later causing devastation on Macragge, Skraivok began asserting control over the fragmented legion. Shang, Kurz's equerry and Lord Commander of the Night Lords, had temporarily taken command, but was soon overwhelmed by the chaos of the legion's disarray. During this time of uncertainty, Skraivok's true power play began. After overcoming his rivals within the fractured Night Lords, Skraivok's machinations bore fruit, and Horus himself recognized him as the acting leader of the Night Lords in the absence of Conrad Kurz. This newfound authority came at a critical time, during the siege of Terra, where Skraivok led his forces into battle, hoping to carve out glory and cement his place in the annals of chaos. Skraivok even dared to challenge Raldoron, the Blood Angel's first captain, in single combat on the Eternity Wall of the Imperial Palace. The duel between Skraivok and Raldoron was intense, and for a time it seemed that Skraivok might prevail, his demon blade giving him the edge. But just as victory seemed within reach, the demon within his weapon, the very source of his power, abandoned him. Deprived of the blade's dark strength, Skraivok was no match for the Blood Angel's champion. Raldoron struck him down, throwing Skraivok from the wall, where he was left broken and dying. Skraivok's defeat, however, was not the end. As he lay on the ground after his defeat at the hands of Raldoron, the demon that had possessed his blade appeared before him. It revealed that it had abandoned him as a lesson. It offered Skraivok one final chance at salvation. If he agreed to endure 6 times 666 years of torment within the warp, the demon would elevate him to a new level of power. Desperate for survival and intoxicated by his lust for power, Skraivok agreed. With a final scream, he vanished from the battlefield, leaving the siege of Terra behind to begin his dark ascension. Gendor Skraivok's legacy didn't end at Terra. Following his centuries of torture in the warp, he returned as a Daemon Prince, forever bound to the dark powers that had elevated him. In the current era, Skraivok re-emerged, leading a warband of Night Lords during the infamous Ramiel betrayal. His actions led to the death of Supreme Grandmaster Naberius of the Dark Angels, and he later clashed with his successor, Azrael. Despite his newfound power, Skraivok was ultimately defeated by the intervention of Chief Librarian Ezekiel, but as a Daemon Prince, his story is far from over. Gendor Skraivok's life tells the story of bloodshed, betrayal, and unchecked ambition. From the dark streets of Nostramo to his ascension as a Daemon Prince, Skraivok's hunger for power led him down a path of corruption. His manipulation of events within the Legion, his bond with the cursed demon blade, and his relentless pursuit of control turned him into a figure of terror in the galaxy. But Skraivok's tale is far from over. As a Daemon Prince, Skraivok's presence still lingers in the galaxy, and with his lust for power unquenched, what will be his next move in this eternal war?